I was a child, I knew that I would never become a basketball hero. I would never become a football jock. So sports was not first on my plate. But then years later, I took my daughter ice skating. I gave her private lessons. And then I was paying good money to see her fall. And then I said, now, wait a minute. I'm a physicist. Ice skating is nothing but applied Newtonian physics. I can learn how to ice skate and save money by teaching my daughter. Well, I got hooked. Spinning on ice is my favorite pastime, and it's something that is totally unlike anything you've ever felt before. On the ice, the laws of physics are in your favor. So even if you're a klutz on land, you become this elegant swan when you're on ice. Newton says in his first law of motion, objects in motion stay in motion forever unless acted on by an outside force. And so when you get into a spin, you can actually feel the conservation of angular momentum. I see the laws of physics pure, pristine, gorgeous. How often can you get into a spin and spin almost forever? When I was a child of 8, something happened which changed my life forever. A great scientist had just died that day. And on the evening news and on the papers, they had a picture of his desk. And the caption said, "Unfinished manuscript from the greatest scientist of our era." I found out that it was Albert Einstein who had died that day. And on his desk was the unfinished manuscript of the unified field theory. He wanted an equation no more than 1 inch long that could summarize all physical laws, that would allow us to, quote, read the mind of God. This was greater than any adventure story. This was greater than any murder mystery. And I said to myself, that's for me. I want to work on this unified field theory. This was the grandest chase in the history of modern physics. I'm a theoretical physicist. I work almost exclusively with my pencil and paper. I stare at the window. I have equations dancing in my head all the time, to the point that even my wife thinks I'm a little bit crazy. But sometimes, after maybe a few hundred pages of calculation, I say to myself, what is it all about? And then I think back to myself as a child. That's why I'm doing this. Because I had that vision, the same vision that Einstein had, that maybe, just maybe, we're finding universal laws throughout the universe. For me, that's a thrill. If a theory cannot be explained to a child, then the theory is probably worthless. Rockefeller Center, dancing under Prometheus with all the lights and the glamour of Midtown Manhattan. Edwin Hubble, he quit a promising law career and went into astronomy because of his romance with the work of Jules Verne. Hands down, Flash Gordon. I do it with my wife all the time. I grab her 2 arms and literally throw her a few feet in the air, and then she does a beautiful swan-like landing as she glides off the ice. It is possible. First of all, you have Newtonian mechanics. That's a byproduct of the theory of everything that makes him glide across ice. Then you have the chemistry of his body, the chemistry of energy. All chemistry comes from quantum physics, so string theory would give you everything about Brian Boitano, except maybe for one thing: consciousness. We're not quite sure where that comes from. Einstein himself, he wore a bow tie. He had a beautiful, beautiful tuxedo. He was quite the man around town. quiet room. You know, Aristotle once said that all the ills of the world can be traced to the fact that we cannot sit still for several hours. The spin. Once I'm in position, I spin forever. Your imagination.
You know, they were talking about climate change yesterday, and now we're learning that scientists and researchers are looking at how to change the weather on purpose. That's right. Lasers now could one day manipulate rain and lightning. CBS This Morning contributor Michio Kaku is a physics professor at City College of New York. Professor, nice to see you. Extraordinary seeing Al Gore and Bill Clinton there together with Charlie, wasn't it?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, they did not get into this discussion,
no.
though. But it is fascinating. I mean, lasers, really, to change the weather?
That's right. Well, as Mark Twain once famously said, everyone complains about the weather, but no one ever does anything about it. Well, instead of doing a rain dance, we physicists are firing trillion-watt lasers into the sky to actually precipitate rain clouds and actually bring down lightning bolts. This is potentially a game changer.
But this is experimental.
It's experimental. However, in the laboratory so far it works. When you have water vapor and you have dust particles or ice crystals, you can precipitate rain. It condenses around the seeds. These seeds can also be created by laser beams. By firing trillion-watt lasers, you rip apart the electrons, creating what are called ions, and these ions act like seeds, like dust particles, bringing down rain and even lightning.
Go ahead.
Well, this fascinates me in part because, too, I remember reading the stories that China had used this during the Olympics, that the USSR had used this after Chernobyl to create rain clouds. I mean, did those really work then? We have some of these capabilities now?
Inconclusive. Even in the 60s, the CIA used this to bring down monsoons during the Vietnam War, to wash out the Viet Cong. Governments have been playing with this thing.
Alleged to.
Alleged to, right.
Yeah.
Now, we realize that for decades now, these governments have been alleged to have experimented with weather control, but nothing conclusive. This time we're bringing in the laws of physics rather than simply waving our hands and uttering mumbo-jumbo. We're actually using trillion-watt lasers now. And in the laboratory, sure enough, they precipitate rain out of water vapor. Sure enough, you can actually bring down electricity down the beam.
So what does it mean for drought areas that need to have rain for crops, and if they don't have them, there's the consequences of famine?
Well, the bad news is if it's a clear blue sky, it's not going to do anything at all because it only takes water vapor that's already in the air and condenses it. However, for floods, for agriculture, for farmers, for people planning wedding parties, football games, you name it, outdoor events and agriculture and flooding and even hurricanes, all of them could be subject to weather modification.
Incredibly interesting, Professor Michio Kaku. Thank you so much.
My name is Professor Michio Kaku. I'm a professor of theoretical physics here at the City University of New York, and this is my desk. I've been in this office for about 10 years, and before that I was in the offices right next door.
Any questions? Send me an email.
Okay. Midterm exams, I got a grade. When I was in my living room as a kid, two things happened which changed my life. First, Einstein died. Second, on Saturday mornings, Flash Gordon was on. And I used to love watching Flash Gordon because it introduced me to a whole world of rocket ships and aliens and invisibility shields, cities in the sky. I learned, first of all, that I didn't have blonde hair, I didn't have blue eyes, I didn't have muscles. I was not going to be Flash Gordon. But it was the scientist who invented the ray guns, the starships, the city in the sky.
Have you seen any signs of life down there, Dr. Zarkov?
Not yet, Dale.
Science made the whole series work. So my living room as a kid has been now transformed into my office of today. It's kind of messy. As I think Winston Churchill once said, it's pointless to have a nice clean desk because it means that you're not doing anything. So these are just some of the different kinds of awards that I've gotten over the years. One of these days I'm going to have to post them, I suppose. But somebody did a painting of me, a la Star Wars. So there I am with my Jedi Knight sword. A lot of the things in Star Wars are actually physically possible, except I do not have a lightsaber. So, in my book, Physics of the Future, I take you 100 years into the future. They're inventing the driverless car. They're inventing the internet contact lens. They're inventing the human body shop, whereby we can grow any organ of the body. They're beginning to tease apart the aging process. All of us will have this technology. All of us will live longer. All of us will know exactly what's happening because we'll have the internet in our contact lens. And we're not going to be happier as a consequence. I don't like to change something unless I really have to. If a computer works and it's old, but it works, if it ain't broke, why bother to change it? But if my daughter were to come here, she'd probably say, oh my God, I feel like I'm with dinosaurs. Look, there's a brontosaurus over there. Look, there's a stegosaurus over there. But time moves on. And I say to myself, well, basically, I'm kind of an old-fashioned guy.
This morning, NASA plans to unveil a scientific breakthrough that could solve what is being called the Mars mystery. The announcement comes 3 days after the space agency said on Twitter that it would announce a major science finding. Space fans around the world are trying to guess what this breakthrough could be. Lane Keano of our digital network, CBSN, is here with the latest speculation.
Good morning. When NASA announced it had made a major discovery about Earth's closest planetary neighbor, space fans around the world were sent into a speculation frenzy. Much of the guessing game has focused on rumors that liquid water has been found on the red planet. If that's the case, experts say our perception of Mars will no longer be the same. For over a century, the search for life on Mars has been one of humanity's biggest mysteries. And for a planet perceived as having too hostile an environment to support any form of life, public perception of Mars is rooted less in reality and more in fantasy. But that perception of Mars could soon be much different. In a series of tweets, the space agency wrote, "Mars mystery solved," and that a major scientific finding had been made. The announcement sent space fans around the world into a frenzy. On social media, speculation about the Martian mystery included references to aliens, potatoes, and Hollywood actor Matt Damon, whose new movie, The Martian, opens this week.
I gotta make water and grow food on a planet where nothing grows.
Members of the scientific community say NASA is expected to announce that a source of free-flowing water has been discovered on Mars' surface. It's a discovery that could forever change how human beings view their celestial neighbor.
And it changes everything, because it means that this liquid water can be used for, perhaps, irrigation, drinking water, and even rocket fuel.
Public fascination with Mars has increased ever since NASA launched its unmanned rover Curiosity, which continually sends back images of the Martian landscape.
The holy grail of planetary science is to find evidence of liquid water that may sustain life. And in this sense, NASA may have hit the jackpot.
The discovery of a free-flowing water source on the planet means that a manned mission to Mars could soon get off the ground.
This potential announcement is big, really big, because it vastly increases the chance that there could be, for example, microbial life on Mars. And if there's microbial life, who knows what else can exist on Mars? So this is a game changer. It changes the whole scientific landscape.
Today's announcement comes shortly after NASA said it has plans to launch a manned mission to Mars within the next 15 years, an ambitious goal that could shortly be one step closer to becoming a reality. Nora?
Fascinating indeed. Yeah, well, we'll see what they find. Yeah.
it's not revolutionary, it's not a new source of energy, but it could be a game changer because the industry has been haunted for 50 years by this bottleneck, the lack of a battery. That's why we never entered the solar age. People wonder, how come we don't have wind farms everywhere? How come utilities have overcapacity? Because of the lack of a reliable storage. And that's where this comes in.
But if this is being charged, admittedly by solar, then it's environmentally good. But if it's just being charged from the grid, even at low peak hours, does that benefit us in terms of an environment?
Not necessarily, because coal plants provide most of the energy, and coal is polluting. And this is a storage medium. It is not a generating medium for energy. It's not nuclear, it's not coal, it's not oil. It's a storage facility. That's why the solar age and the wind power age could be initiated, because when the sun doesn't shine, you can now store the energy and use it at night. So that's the reason why we never entered the solar age, because of the storage problem. Right. This could solve that. But it doesn't solve the environmental problem of carbon dioxide.
Well, arguably, some would say if you're not, if it's not at peak time, if it's overnight, then the energy generation can be more could be more constant rather than peaks and troughs. But I suspect that's not what this is about.
Well, look at the utilities. Utilities have to plan for peak summer.
Right.
That means during the year they have 30% excess capacity that they don't need. This could even out the fluctuations.
Now, you're a futurist, if you don't mind me using that phrase. You looked... With what you see, what Musk has done with the cars, the Tesla, with the space, with the SpaceX, with this, what do you make of it? Is he a visionary, or is he a wealthy man who's just going on foibles?
Well, it's more than just a boy with a toy. We're talking about a man that sees a gap. He sees a hole, and he knows that technology can fill the hole. But timing is everything. You jump in too early, the technology is not ready. You go in too late, you slow, you blow. So he knows when to jump in terms of billing, cyberspace and billing technology with PayPal, reusable rockets with SpaceX. He knows when to jump in. He says now's the time because battery power is getting 8% more efficient every year. It could drop by 50% in the coming years, and demand rises, and the two curves could collide very soon.
Right, they may collide very soon. But is he going to go bust? I mean, I don't mean financially. Is this fundamentally a good idea that he's come up with?
I think he's onto something. And I think that, he's shown that he is a businessman. He's more than just a visionary. He knows how to count the dollars. He knows the bottom line is, the checkbook's got a balance, right? And so that's why, like Steve Jobs, initially didn't get both. He didn't get the technology and the bookkeeping right. Elon Musk has shown that he can do the bookkeeping.
Will you watch the fight tomorrow?
No.
Very wise.
Astronomers have found clear evidence of what could be an Earth 2.0. This artist rendering shows the rocky planet identified as Proxima b orbiting the Proxima Centauri star.
Proxima Centauri is the closest star to our planet apart from the Sun, and it is about 4.25 light years away. Here to discuss it with us is CBS News contributor and theoretical physicist Michio Kaku. Dr. Kaku, I am very excited to talk about this. The discovery of an Earth-like planet a mere 4.2 million light years away. How big of a deal is this?
This is a game changer because astronomers have hit the jackpot. This is their dream come true. A new chapter in astronomy has opened up. Now, the holy grail of astronomy is to find the closest Earth-like twin, a doppelganger in outer space. And now we've nailed it. After looking at 4,000 extrasolar planets, we finally found the closest one that looks very similar to the planet Earth, we think. Think about that.
How did we not know this existed before?
Well, these planets are very tiny and very difficult to find. Now, if you look at the night sky at night, the stars you see at night are several hundred to a few thousand light years distant. This planet is 4.25 light years. That's a hop, skip, and a jump. Right. And Stephen Hawking, my colleague, has already stated that in 20 years time, we'll send the first probes to the nearby stars. A new chapter in astronomy. Instead of trying to explore the solar system, now we're actually thinking about going to the next solar system in outer space.
Now, when we say this could be an Earth 2.0, it makes me think of the people here on Earth 1.0 who think we may be ruining the place and need to go somewhere. Is this the kind of place we could go and just set up life as we know it?
Not in our lifetime. First of all, we can't even go to Mars yet with a colony. NASA has already stated that sometime in the 2030s, the first humans will go to the red planet. So probably by the end of this century, we'll have actually a functioning colony on Mars. But to actually send people to Earth 2.0, that would require new technologies into the next century. That's why Stephen Hawking wants to send chips, postage stamp-sized chips by the thousands, shot by laser beams to the nearby stars, traveling at 20% the speed of light.
And researchers have determined that the planet's temperature is actually sustainable for liquid water. What does that mean?
That's right. If you're too close to the mother star, then the oceans will boil. If you're too far from the mother star, the oceans will freeze. You want to be in the Goldilocks zone, where water is just right to be liquid. And why liquid water? Because liquid water is the universal solvent. It's the amniotic fluid that gave birth to DNA and RNA here on the planet Earth. And we think that this planet is right in the habitable zone. Bingo, right where it has to be.
So, Dr. Kaku, I can't let you go without asking you this question. We know the temperature, we have some idea of what it looks like, we think it's a lot like Earth. Do we know whether or not there is anyone living there?
No, and I'm sure if there are people living there, they would ask the question, is there intelligent life on the Earth?
This interview is happening on that planet right now in a bizarro parallel universe?
Yeah, and of course we all know the answer. There is no intelligent life on the Earth. Just watch the presidential debates and things, right? No intelligent life on the Earth.
Oh, Dr. Michio Kaku, thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
Welcome back. Let's put this baby to bed in style. NASA's Kepler Space Telescope has discovered over 4,000 objects thought to be planets just outside of our solar system. Now, recently, a team of international researchers identified 20 Earth-like planets that may be able to sustain water and thus life, meaning alien life. How soon until we start meeting our galactic neighbors? Let's turn to the one and only Dr. Michio Kaku. He's a theoretical physicist and professor at the City College of New York. Welcome back, Dr. Kaku.
Glad to be on the show.
So there are 20 planets that are Earth-like, that are really, in terms of the vast universe, not that far away. How do we get there?
Well, first of all, one of them looks like a doppelganger of the planet Earth. It's only 10% larger than the planet Earth, only 500 light years from the planet Earth. But it means that there could be twins. There could be twins of the Earth in outer space.
Yeah.
So we're going to have an existential shock looking at the night sky, realizing that throughout the heavens there are all these twins of the Earth. Incredible.
Now, there are at least 100 billion galaxies in the Milky Way. The Milky Way weighs 100 billion solar masses. And every single one of those is essentially a sun that could have planets revolving around it. And given those numbers, just in our solar system alone, isn't there a really high probability that there's got to be something out there even kind of like us?
We can even give you a number for that. We have a census of the Milky Way galaxy now. We now realize that perhaps 1 in 20 stars have Earth-like planets going around them, meaning that in our own backyard, the Milky Way galaxy, there are probably a billion Earth-like planets. This is astonishing. It may mean that life is much more prevalent than we ever suspected.
All right, and how quickly is our technology growing? I mean, is it conceivable that within 100 years, or even, you look even further forward to 1,000 years, that we could actually traverse that kind of distance in a single human lifetime?
Well, we all want to know the answer to the question, is there intelligent life on the Earth? The answer to that is obviously no. No chance of intelligent life on this planet. But we think that in 100 years' time, the first starship will be sent to Alpha Centauri.
Wow.
Stephen Hawking has already advocated sending postage stamp chips this big on a sail, blasted with laser beams at 20% the speed of light.
We talked about that last time you were here, and then they could create their own energy, and because they're so small, go much, much farther than we could with the technology.
Right.
That we
and even inside the solar system, we could go to Mars just within a day. Just within one day, blasting with laser beams on a parachute, sending chips to the red planet.
The planets, these exoplanets that are 500 light years away, how do we find out whether or not there's water on there? I mean, do you have to physically land something on there to analyze the sample?
No. So first of all, we identify the fact that they have a certain mass and a certain size.
Yeah.
Then we identify how close they are to the sun. So we know that we have a doppelganger, right distance from the sun, right size, 10% bigger than the Earth.
Yep.
Next will be to identify H2O, water, and oxygen. We have not yet done that.
Okay.
So we don't know whether it's barren like Mars or super hot like Venus or just right like the planet Earth. That we don't know yet. But it's just right in order to have liquid oceans. We just don't know if it has them or not.
We are such Goldilocks people. All right, well, Dr. Kaku, thank you so much. Please continue to visit. We love your view of the heavens and beyond.
Okay.
Very good.
That was a nightmare scenario from the movie Deep Impact, when a massive meteor smashes into the planet Earth. Obviously, an apocalyptic event such as that is extraordinarily rare, but is it impossible? Remember in 2013 when a small meteor tore over the skies of Russia, smashing windows and injuring hundreds? Or was it Vladimir Putin launching a missile? All of that brings us to this week. There are reports that a mile-wide asteroid is going to pass very close to Earth in just 2 days. But should we be scared? What should we be doing to prepare? Let's talk to Dr. Michio Kaku. He is a world-famous physicist and an author, and you are here in person, and I'm very delighted to meet you, sir.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely. So let's talk about this giant asteroid. How big is it in terms of the other flying rocks that pass by Earth?
Well, you know, the dinosaurs did not have a space program. That's why they're not here today.
Yeah,
and an object 6 miles across knocked out the dinosaurs. This object is 1 mile across. It is a whopper. It is what is called a nation buster. Ooh. It'll knock out just London or New York. It'll knock out North America. It'll knock out Europe or Asia. A tremendous tsunami will engulf perhaps most of the northeast of the United States. Sure. 1.5 billion people could perish. So that's the bad news. The bad news is that this could really ruin your day.
It certainly could.
Right.
And all of your days. It could be the end of days.
Right. The good news is we've been tracking it. And we know that it's going to come within 6 million miles of the Earth. Take the distance from the Earth to the Moon and multiply by 25. Okay. So that's how far it's going to swing around the planet Earth. But the lesson here is this caught us off guard. Only recently have we noticed that there's all these rocks flying in outer space. We've been oblivious. We've been blissfully ignorant for thousands of years about all the pieces of rock that have been shooting around this cosmic shooting gallery. Yeah. Now we have a space program. Now we realize, oh my God, there's a lot of stuff out there.
I mean, the more we build these giant telescopes, like the one they're trying to build in Mauna Kea. I mean, they've obviously got the Keck telescopes there, but they're trying to build an even bigger optical telescope. It tells us more about the origins of the universe, but it also lets us know that there's a good chance we're going to die. What is the probability of one of these asteroids hitting us at some point?
Well, a city buster, like the one that sailed over Russia and almost hit Chelyabinsk in the Urals in Russia, that was a city buster. It was about the size of an apartment building. And they occur on the rate of about maybe once every century or once every 200 years. Then we have the nation busters that'll knock out North America, it'll knock out Germany, it'll knock out the huge portions of the planet Earth. These are very rare, and they would happen on a scale of perhaps hundreds of thousands to perhaps 1 million years. And then we have...
Are we due for one of those?
Well, then we have the planet busters.
Oh, no! I knew knew you were going to say Planet Buster.
Right. They're the ones that knocked out the dinosaurs. And about 90% of life forms were endangered by that object that hit Mexico 65 million years ago. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, this is not on that scale. It's only a mile across. But the damage it could do is... Yeah, that's right. Near the Yucatan of Mexico, not that far from Cancun.
Yeah.
And that's where this object hit, creating a crater 180 miles in diameter. On the map of the Earth, you can actually, if you were to put a magic marker, see the crater cut out by this object.
You need to come back and talk about science, 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 always and often. Will you please return?
Okay.
I will bribe you with sweet treats and anything you desire in the form of baked goods, Doctor.
Okay.
So thank you so much for being here.
I can't refuse.
All right. Very good. So let it be written and done. Oh, no. I knew you were going to say Planet Buster.